computer. There we go. All right. Hi, it's Barry Moll, still getting small businesses unstuck. And today we're talking with John Lawson and Rieva Lesonsky about an article and more of some thoughts that have just come out is, should we really prioritize the economy and get it going, or should we save lives? And are they mutually exclusive? So John, why don't you introduce yourself, and Rieva, why don't you introduce yourself, and we can start the conversation.
Yeah, John Lawson. I don't know. I've pivoted so much in the last few weeks, so I'll just be John Lawson at Colder Ice, but definitely an S&B influency kind of voice, and I'm definitely watching this impact on small business right
now. Hi, Rieva.
Hi, Rieva Lesonsky, CEO of Grow Biz Media, smallbizdaily.com, content producer, writing a lot about this for us and other people. So spend a little bit more time than I kind of would want to looking at what people are saying about the coronavirus.
So let me start with this quote. This is from the Thomas Friedman article in the New York Times a couple of days ago. He says, "But as so many of our businesses shut down and millions begin to be laid off, some experts are beginning to ask, wait a minute, what the hell are we doing to ourselves, to the economy, to our next generation? Is this cure, even for a short while, worse than the disease?" And we know that Trump tweeted something pretty similar. So Rieva, let's start with you. How do we prioritize lives and the economy? And is the cure worse than the disease?
I will quote Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York: "You always put people's lives first." The fact that this is even debatable kind of makes me sick. I don't think that this is open for debate. I don't think we have done what we should do as a nation to actually combat it. I don't think we're making it better. I think we could possibly be making it worse. And you can have a great economy, and if everybody is dead, it's really not going to matter.
John, what do you think?
I don't get the comparison. That's the part I don't get. It's like, should I spend this money on my child, or should I make them go to a bad school? See, when you put it in that kind of, I don't get it. You know, where do we value money over the people we care about? When does that ever happen until just now? I don't get it. Right. So I think it's kind of ridiculous to put these two things together and say, well, let's weigh them. No, there's no way you can weigh the two. Now, can we talk about how we deal with the economy and then how we deal with the illness and the overrun of our healthcare system? Yes, we can talk about those two things, but I think they need to be exclusive, not inclusive.
But I think the lieutenant governor, I believe it was of Texas, right? He said that, well, listen, the older people, the more sick people, and I'm just paraphrasing, would gladly give up their lives for the future American way of life. To me, that seems ridiculous.
I think he should be the first one. Do you remember
exactly.
Do you remember in the Bible that you had in order to you sacrifice something so you could please God? Well, I think that let's go ahead, be the first one. Go touch people who are sick. It's really easy for these privileged people to get there and say, hey, let's kill grandma so the stock market can look good. No one is going to be happy with dead grandmas. So I'm with John. I can't even believe we have to have this conversation.
But I guess my question is, at what point and how long do you keep not the entire economy shut down? Because clearly it's not, right? But have people stay in their homes. How long does this go for? And is there a phased implementation of coming back? One of the things I want to share with you, and I'm going to share my screen right now, and this was also in the Thomas Friedman article. This is from a Dr. David Katz, who's the founding director of Yale University's CDC-funded Yale Griffin Prevention Research Center. He says that we should bring people back in tiers, T-I-E-R, right? Does it make sense to bring people back in tiers? And I guess at what point?
So, Barry, I am going to give this doctor and Thomas Friedman the benefit of the doubt And if you note the date on this, that was March 22nd. And
A lifetime ago in terms of this disease, right?
right. In the 3 days we have passed that, we have learned some things. One thing I read this morning is that we've based a lot of formulations of this based on information out of China. And the initial information out of China said the older people are more impacted. It doesn't affect young people. What it turns out, that's a bunch of bull. There are many previously healthy people who are dead in their 30s and 40s from this. And so we're basing this on, oh, it just affects old people, and it doesn't. And I think we have to understand that there was a woman, a principal in a school in Brooklyn. She was 36 years old and she died, and she was healthy. And so I think that we can't, what does it mean in tiers? First of all, this whole country should be shut down. We should all be under stay-at-home policies. Part of the country is, part of the country isn't. So germs are still being passed back and forth.
So what Dr. Katz is talking about in this particular graph is, if you look at the bottom, people that are lower average risk, less than 60 years old and good health, they come back to work. And obviously you do the social distancing and things like that. And then the people who are over 75 who have a disease, right? They don't come out at all for as long as it takes. Does that make sense?
No, because this is wrong. People are dying. Young people are dying.
Except the ones on spring break. They're not dying.
Not yet. So the thing, go ahead.
No, John.
But the thing is, one thing we got to really think about, it's talking about people with heart disease are high risk, people with diabetes are high risk, people that are overweight can be high risk, high blood pressure are high risk. We have to understand, we're talking now about Americans. Americans are overweight, fat, cheeseburger eating people. So the deal is, we can't just go and look and say, and then if you let some of them go to work, who do they come home to? The high risk people?
Right.
I mean, that doesn't make sense. However, I have my own theory that is similar, that we could test in a small area and see if it worked.
And what's that, John?
It's similar to that. It's like, first you have to have the lockdown, right? So that everybody that is possibly infected gets to start showing symptoms. That was the purpose of the 14 or 15-day lockdown that we're supposed to have, but it was voluntary. But once people are showing the symptoms, then you know, okay, that guy can't go back. So we have everybody locked down for like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, yeah? The ones that are not showing signs, you let half of them go back to work. The other half stay at home still, right? You take temperatures to make sure that these guys going in the building or whatever, going into the subway station, whatever, we have to make sure they're not showing any symptoms, right? They work for 2 weeks. Then the other guys come out that have been in for basically a month now for the first 2 weeks plus 2 more weeks. Let that number go back to work while this number that just worked have another 2 week period. And we rotate 2 weeks, 2 weeks, or something similar to that. Could be 3 groups. So it's very similar to it, but it's a little bit, and that's just totally my stupid opinion, and I get it.
No, listen, and could Americans ever follow those kind of instructions?
Absolutely not. So it's
it doesn't. But the problem is, the truth is that many people who test positive have no symptoms.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. We could temperatures. We could half the NBA basketball players who were diagnosed had no symptoms. Rand Paul had no symptoms. And so I think there's so much about this that is unknown. So today I heard that New York and New Jersey Brian there in New Jersey, particularly impacted, right? The most cases. But they say the most new cases is coming out of Louisiana. Now think about that. Why? Because nobody thought, maybe Mardi Gras is not a good idea in the middle of the outbreak of a global pandemic. Florida is going to have a ton of cases. They can sit there and blame it on New Yorkers who are coming down, but that's not the reason. This is going to go everywhere, and we're not taking the steps to prevent the spread.
So let's bring Brian Moran in. Brian, thanks for joining us. We're talking about how do you prioritize the economy versus people's lives, because there is a thought right now by Thomas Friedman and Dr. Katz, and of course tweeted by Trump, that says, hey, maybe we've got to start opening up the economy, and if we lose some lives in the process, that's okay. What do you think?
You know, it was the first time I heard anybody talk like that. Are we overreacting? And you know what? In a situation like this, you really do need to look at all sides of it. I thought it was a very interesting, point that the guy from Stanford made. But I think, given how unprecedented this pandemic is, I think it's better to be safe than sorry at this point. I mean, we weren't ready for it. The world wasn't ready for it. And now you've got to go into complete shutdown and do a restart. So you know what? You add a couple of $1 trillion to the debt. We're at $23 trillion. It's fantasy money. It really is. Just print it, get it out there. Let's get rid of the virus and let's restart the economy. And then let's have some really smart people take the lessons that we should be learning from this coronavirus so that the next time it happens, we're much better prepared.
Brian, when you say restart the economy, how long do we stay locked down, and should it be a national lockdown? Because right now it's really by state, right?
Right.
By locale. I mean, what process should we go through? Is this going to go on for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months? At what point do you say, okay, it's okay to start coming back?
Well, you see, that's why I'm not in politics, because they don't pay me for those answers. You know what? I do what I can do. So I'm in lockdown. I'm staying home. I'm only going out when it's absolutely necessary. And, I tell my family to do the same thing. And, I don't have the answers. I don't have access to the kinds of information that these epidemiologists have. And, worst case, best case scenarios. Everything
but when would you restart, quote unquote, restart the economy? At what point? When would you let people start going back to work? When would you let people go back to restaurants, have movie theaters open up, those types of things? At what point?
I don't think you have a hard, fast date. I don't think you can. I think.
No, is it when there's no new infections or the infection rate slows, or what are we measuring?
Again, does my opinion really matter in something like this? I'm not an expert. You asked me about small business, I can tell you.
I'm sure Rieva could tell us when. Rieva, when should we go back?
Yeah.
There is no date, Barry. And you know what?
So I don't get a date. What set of conditions?
If you listen to what Andrew Cuomo said this morning, they have over 25,000 cases in the state of New York. Brian, New Jersey has the second most. Do you know how many it is?
No.
Okay, so we're the state of California. We only have probably a little over 2,000 cases. But Cuomo said yesterday, and my governor said yesterday, that what's in New York is working its way here. So if New York has 25,000 cases on March 25th, is California going to have 40,000 cases on April 25th? We don't know. We can't go back to work until we have stopped seeing that number of new cases. How many cases are there in New Orleans? And so what? We'll open restaurants so minimum wage workers can be exposed to this crap who don't have access to good health care anyway? We can't exploit our people like that. The lessons that we should be learning from this, or the questions we now should be asking, is what do we do about healthcare? How do we make sure that people are getting healthcare? My niece gave birth today. Wasn't supposed to. They decided to have her have a C-section today because so she wouldn't be she was in New York, and she was told the father can't be present in the delivery room. They live in New York. So They came to New Jersey to have a baby at a time that some random doctor that she'd never met before could deliver this baby because they didn't want to be in a New York hospital. We can't worry about, whoa, let's open a restaurant. We just can't. We need to be coming up with how are we going to take care of people? How are we going to take care of the people who aren't working? How are we going to take care of businesses? We should be giving grants to small business owners, extending unemployment benefits, sending money to Americans so they can pay their mortgages. I haven't read it yet, but I saw a headline that 4 banks in California have agreed to waive mortgage payments for the next 3 months or postpone them. So that's what we need. We need the financial infrastructure to say to people, don't worry about it. If you can't pay your water bill, it's okay. We're not turning off your water.
John, when do you think we should reopen the economy up? At what signs? When will we know?
Well, I mean, the only thing we have to look at is some examples. So one example of what we probably could do is similar to what China did. China shut down their economy at the early end of January. At the midpoint of March, they started ramping it back up. So China actually shut their economy off. Now, if you just look at the news out there, and I heard today that they are letting people out of Wuhan to travel inside of the Hubei province. So that worked for them. So the plan that we're trying to put out there today, ain't nobody tried that yet. So good luck with it. However, what we did see work took about 8 weeks. So
we're not nearly doing what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
We're not checking in. We're not taking temperatures. We're not locking people down. We're doing it kind of half-assed, don't you think?
Absolutely. So we're going to get half-assed results.
We're not
but also,
people.
hold on, but also they kicked American journalists out of China. So we have to rely on what
That's
they're
true.
telling us
We don't
to be accurate.
Right,
So,
but you know what? Here's the thing, and I agree with that in terms of numbers, but we can definitely verify movement. And those things that they're talking about people moving out of their house, we can monitor their traffic on freeways from a satellite. So what they're saying in terms of China rebooting, it's happening. What they said about China stopping, it happened. So those things we can verify. We can't verify the number, we can't verify the spread, but we can verify the movement inside of that country, and what they say, what these dates are, actually did happen.
Right. But the problem is, it's like John said, we haven't shut the country down. So the governor of California said yesterday that he envisions this, we're under a stay-at-home policy, the whole state. And we have been for over a week now. And he said he envisions it lasting a minimum of 8 more weeks. So people can say, we're going to open up the country, and the state governors are going to say, no, we're not.
Right. It's up to the state governors.
Right. And there no state governor who is responsible is going to tell their citizens, go ahead and go back to work. It's okay.
Well, I think that I think there'll be a difficult time for the Republican governors, not for the Democratic governors, right? Because if Trump comes out and says, hey, we're open for business Easter, I think it's going to be hard. At least I think the Republican governors will have to make a choice. But I think that we open up for business when we get over this bubble with the hospitals, right? When we see the capacity that we can handle the people that are coming through, that will give us the indication when to open up the economy again, because to me, that's the critical resource.
And also, and you're right, Barry. I mean, also that should be the criteria. You know, one of the things I think we need to do is separate the United States. All right. And I don't mean literally, but we need to start looking at these as separate entities, because New York is in crisis. Absolutely. Jersey starting to feel the crisis. But it's probably not happening, in Kentucky somewhere where they might have 100 cases that they can isolate, start doing heavy tracing, start doing heavy testing to see if it's spreading, right? New York is past testing. It really is actually. I mean, they can talk about testing. They're past testing. It's already spread. Right now, they have to mitigate, right? But every city's not like that, and I understand. But at the same time, the problem is we have to listen to the experts on how pandemics act and what we need to do to respond for each and every state. And the problem is that the state governors are sitting around waiting for, the city governors are waiting for this, or city mayors are waiting for governor leadership Governor leadership are looking for national leadership, and the national leadership is not home, or it has an agenda that it thinks it's going to work for them. But if they really thought about it, letting the people go back, the actual people that are high risk are their voters. If they actually thought about this.
Brian, you want to come in on this conversation?
Sure. You know what? I mentioned this in a previous discussion that we had, and it was a great quote. The world can take away everything that you have except for your freedom to choose how you respond. I can't control how the mayor of my town or the governor of my state or the president of my country are going to treat the coronavirus. I can choose the way that I respond to it. Now, thankfully, I have my own company and I can work from home and I can continue on with business as usual as it is in a global crisis. And I will take the necessary precautions so that I don't go out and haphazardly get coronavirus because I wasn't practicing social distancing. You know, it comes down to, it starts at the top, but it also starts at the bottom. We need people to make smart choices. And you know what? If you're a kid, you don't go to spring break in Florida and with all your buddies in the middle of March and say, screw Corona, I don't get it. And then you come home and you infect your grandmother or your grandfather. And by the way, the idea, and we've all seen examples of it, but the idea of this being an old person, old person are the ones, there's a 25-year-old athlete who's from the next town who played lacrosse with my son, who's in critical condition right now. And they airlifted him to UPenn Hospital, and they're hoping that some of the drugs that they give him will mitigate some of his issues so that he can fight coronavirus. I mean, this kid's 25, didn't have a care in the world.
Right.
So,
Right.
You know what? If that's not indicative of this is serious, you better take it seriously and forget what the government says. I mean, for us, at least, right? For business owners, you have to make your own decision and be in control of your own destiny about how you're going to respond to this crisis.
So who would be in favor of having the National Guard enforce a lockdown? And every single time that you left your house, you would have to have a reason about where you were going, to their doctor or to the grocery store. Who would be in favor of that?
There are 360 million people, 320 million people in this country. How are you going to lock down it? The National Guard can't be everywhere.
No, I'm saying, I guess I'm thinking mostly stuff from Chicago, mostly in the city.
Now, trust and believe that you will see this happening before we're through this happening.
So you think the National Guard will be in?
If people keep acting the way they act and not taking personal responsibility, you can bet your bottom line that we are about to see National Guard activity. If we saw it the thing is, we act like, well, it never happened. It happened in New Orleans. We saw that. It did happen, right? It can happen in America. It will. If we keep acting up. Every day, these governors are tightening the loop. And every day, people are like, well, I got to walk my dog. I'm like, boy, y'all need to chill.
Yeah.
So do what they say for 2 weeks.
Right. So I think part of it is the state government, right? We're state as our local leaders. So here in California, they locked this, they don't want to call it lockdown. They don't want to call it shelter in place. They're very cognizant of the words, and they're calling it stay at home. So they instituted stay at home policies well over a week ago. But they showed pictures of people in Venice Beach 2 days ago playing basketball. So yesterday they closed all the beaches down. They just said, the governors, the mayors, the local people said, you want to go to the beach? Screw you. The beaches are now closed.
Yeah,
and
because the thing is that they could have went to the beach, but they were not practicing safe distancing. And that's the problem. So they're cutting now. They're doing the same thing here in Atlanta. It was like, well, we leave the bike trails open and the parks open. Now they got to shut them down because people are being irresponsible. And it's unfortunate.
Right. People are stupid. I mean, I just saw a poll and I won't repeat it. I am just shocked at how stupid people are, how stupid they are that they cannot see what's going on, that they don't listen to some of the stories that the doctors are telling, that the nurses are telling, that the hospitals are telling, and they just think, oh, it's fine, it won't happen to me. And it can happen to you. It's like Brian said. So here's a healthy 25-year-old who's sick. Who knows how many people he touched with that? You just don't know.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that so like Brian said too, the kids go out and they hang out and then they go back and infect their grandma. Not about just infecting their grandma, they probably infect 10 more people in their town. And all of a sudden it's in their town when it wasn't at all before, because of the irresponsibility of one or two of the kids in that state. It didn't need to happen. It did not need to happen.
So I want to conclude this conversation. I want each of you to answer 3 questions. The first one is, this is prediction time, looking into your crystal ball, okay? How many people are going to get infected? How many people are going to die in the United States? And when are we going to get out of lockdown where everything's going to open up? How long is it going to be? Just look in your crystal ball and tell me what you think.
Oh, these are just guesses.
These are just guesses. Because, John, as you know, we have incomplete information.
If I were close to my magic 8-ball, the answer would be, the answer is foggy or whatever that is. No one knows, and no one knows.
But take a guess, Rieva.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Anybody want to take a guess?
Well, let me ask you this. What are the numbers coming out of China? Is the number of infected residents still under 100,000?
Yes, but they practice very strict lockdown. That's why our thing is going to be, because, all right, I'll go first, right? I think my prediction is that 1 million people will get infected. I think that 50 million people will get infected. Whoa. And I think that we'll see 500,000 deaths. That's kind of what my prediction is, kind of sort of in line with what happened with the Spanish flu, even though we have a much bigger population. And I think that we're going to go at least 8 more weeks before we're able to resume a somewhat normal kind of thing go out there in the world. Anybody else?
I'm going to say my guess is 500,000 people infected, 30,000 deaths, and it'll probably go through, so this is April, May, July, early July.
Wow, so only 500,000 infected. You think we'll stop there? Because we should be, by this Friday, over 100,000, right?
Yes.
So you think only 500,000 and only how many die?
So here's the deal. I'm just cheating. I'm looking at the world numbers right now, and I think we'll match the world numbers.
Got it.
That's really, so I was saying about 30,000 dead. It's at 21,000 right now, but I think we'll have a little higher than we expect. So we'll see.
So how many people die of the flu according to the president every year? 50,000?
Nobody dies of the flu. That's a misnomer. I guess you've never heard anybody be like, oh, Nana died from the flu. Nobody dies from the flu. People die from complications that are
like pneumonia,
made worse by the flu, but nobody dies from the flu.
Right.
So John, if only 5, and I say only,
I know
100,000 people get infected, and only, and I say only in quotes, 30,000 people die. Has this been all worth it to the economy?
I mean, what's the economy?
The U.S. economy.
I know, but what is it? I mean, who's losing money?
A lot of small business owners.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't think you can have 500,000 people, or let's say 1 million people, or 50,000 people die and that not affect the economy. The thought that we're just going to put on our Easter bonnets and go on Easter egg hunts while New York is going in straight up crazy town mode, it's just not going to happen. People are already affected by the fear of what they know is happening. So it's just not going to, I just think it's ridiculous.
So that's exactly right. So here's the bottom line. Our economy was strong because it was a consumer-based economy. The consumers were out there spending money. Consumers are not out there spending. It's not like it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go back to a restaurant. I'm scared. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want my friends to put themselves out there. I want to make sure that people are practicing, you know, what we're supposed to be. And I remind people all the time. I worry about my nephew who's young and 24 and thinks nothing can hurt him, right? And so you have to, people aren't going to be going out there and just saying, hey, it's okay, I'm going to do this. Businesses are not going to open until consumers are ready to get out there and spend money again. And that's going to be, so let's say we open the economy in June. What happens? So now a consumer has to pay a mortgage or go out to a restaurant. They're going to be paying their mortgage. I think we were not prepared for a global pandemic, and we are not prepared for how to recover from this, because we're playing games with, oh, let's open it up. What the hell does that even mean? We need to prepare. Small businesses need to prepare. Big businesses need to prepare. We need to understand how we come back from this, and everybody, small business owners, should be at home doing their plan. Brian has his thing about you can be in the weeds, or you can look at your business from how many feet up?
20,000.
20,000 feet up. We all need to get up there right now and look down and say, what are we going to do in June? What are we going to do in September? What are we going to do over the holiday season? How are we going to figure out how to come back from this when there's so many unknowns that we don't know in October that this isn't going to come back again? We have to plan. We didn't plan. We're paying the price. We're not planning, and we need to sit down and plan.
All right. Anybody else for final thoughts?
Yeah. So I just I was part of a webinar this morning with the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, and it was all business owners who joined, and I gave them some tips. And I said, you need to create 4 GPS plans. See, the biggest fear people have, and the anxiety and the stress and the chaos, is of the unknown, right? And so, okay, then let's do an exercise that we can answer as many questions as we possibly can. So it starts with, ask every question you have about your personal life and your business and everything that's on your mind. Write it down on a piece of paper. And the next thing you do is you go find answers for those questions. Like, okay, and maybe it's not answers, but it's options. And then what you do is, once you get all of the information together, you create 4 GPS plans over the next 97 days. That's really what we got to focus on. You know, in the Army, when everything went haywire, like, you know, they said, okay, we're going to invade this town, that's what we're going to do. And all of a sudden everything got snafu'd. And I'm sure I can say this word on your broadcast, but situation normal, all fucked up, right? Okay, we're supposed to do this. Boom, that road doesn't exist anymore. That tunnel doesn't exist. This pathway doesn't exist. We still need to get to our goal. How are we going to do it? So here's what I would tell, whether you are a business owner, you work in a business, you have a family, you need to create 4 GPS plans. And a GPS plan is like on your phone. You type in the address, it tells you where to go, how long it will take to get there, maybe some alternate routes. And we did this yesterday, but I'm going to do it for your listeners as well. You have a 6-day GPS plan, right? We have 6 days left in March, hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
So where do you want to be personally at the end of March? You know what? I want to be able to do 10 push-ups. I want to be able to eat healthy breakfast. I want to be able to walk in my backyard or something for 30 minutes a day. I want to go to bed at the same time every night. I want to wake up every night. I want to have a routine. Those are goals. And then what you do between now and the end of March every day is you try and hit that goal. Everything you do should take you closer to the goal. And you know what that does? It takes your mind off of the unknown, the fear, the anxiety that's all around us, and it gets you laser-like focused on how you can be in a better place 6 days from now. I have no idea when all of this is going to come around. I have some thoughts, but then what you do is this week, sometime this week, you create that GPS plan for April. Okay, I want to do 20 push-ups, and I want to do this many sit-ups, and I want to paint the rooms in my house that I said I couldn't do, you know, because I had no time. Well, now it's like the world hit reset and you have all the time in the world to do this stuff. And you do the same thing for your business. And here's what happens. Suddenly you become a leader and people look to you or toward you for answers. Okay, the world is all snafu'd right now, but holy shit, Brian Moran seems to have his act together. He knows where he wants to be at the end of March. He knows where he wants to be at the end of April, the end of May, and the end of June. And then you revisit everything. But that's the key to success, is that you are able to focus on something and you can at least control the things you have control over. And the line that I used the other day, and I'll use here now, in The Untouchables, the movie with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner, and you know, something went sideways and Sean Connery looks at Kevin Costner and said, "What are you prepared to do now?" Right? So I'll ask all of you, what are you prepared to do now so that you can continue on the path to success in 2020? Does coronavirus beat you, or do you beat coronavirus?
Well, Brian, where can people reach you?
They can't.
They can't. They're in your house.
I'm too busy.
I know how to find them.
My store is closed. No. You know what? Send me an email, Brian at smallbusinessedge.com, or on Twitter at Brian Moran, and that's BrianMoran.
And Rieva, where can people reach you?
At Rieva on Twitter, RIEVA. Email me at rieva@smallbizdaily.com, or ask Brian where to find me.
And John, where can people reach you at Corona Central?
Corona Central at Colder Ice. You know, the at symbol Colder Ice. I'm Colder Ice on every platform you can think of.
And you're also doing
COLDERICE.
coronavirus hangouts, I think, every night, right?
CV hangouts every night. Every once in a while doing some CV. But CVHangout.com is those. So
there you go. All right. Thanks for joining us. You can reach me at barry@moltz.com. Take care.